Right, we do have a quorum. Councilmember Silva did mention that he had an emergency he had to attend to. So, Councilmember Gonzalez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next, we will go to approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. None, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to approval of the minutes. Item 5A, approval of the meeting minutes of May 14th, regular meeting minutes. Any changes to those meeting minutes as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. None, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to the meeting minutes of May 20th, 2013, special meeting minutes. Any questions or changes to those meetings as presented?
None, Mr. Mayor. None, Mr. Mayor.
I have none, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item 6A. This time I'd like to call Mr. George Jaramillo up to the podium, please. We would like to recognize Mr. George Jaramillo for his service to the town of Taos as he's retiring from as being the library services director. At this time, Mr. Jaramillo, his effective retirement date was June 1st, 2013. He dedicated service as library director for the past 5 years, 5 months, and it is certainly greatly appreciated. George, thank you for all your leadership that you demonstrated to being our public library director. And I'd like to read to you this proclamation. And it reads as follows. Retirement Proclamation. The Mayor and Town Council of the Town of Taos are pleased to proclaim the retirement of George Jaramillo. Having faithfully discharged the duties and responsibilities as Library Services Director in and for the Town of Taos for the past 5 years, 5 months, and having met the prescribed requirements as for retirement from the Public Employees Retirement Association, on behalf of the citizens of this community, we proclaim June 1st, 2013, George Jaramillo Day, and as his official date of retirement from the town of Taos. Our sincere congratulations, and we wish you well on your retirement. Presented this 11th day of June, 2013. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any few words to say?
I just want to say in the last 5 years, we have done an incredible job of moving the library services forward. And it's been at the, and it's because of the incredible staff, the help and support that they have given me these past 5 years. I also would like to thank the mayor, the council, the town manager, and the assistant manager for their support, and for their, particularly for their support these past 5 years for supporting the library through its budget. I know there's some difficult times right now, but we wouldn't have been able to accomplish what we did accomplish without their support, the monetary support. So thank you.
Thank you. George, I just want to say that as I began my journey as a council member, you were one of the first directors that we appointed, and we have served about the same amount of time for the town of Taos. So my sincere congratulations to you. As mayor now of the town of Taos, you clearly are one of the best directors that we have. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next, we would like to also recognize the following newly appointed department heads, and I'd like to give them their appointment plaque. And the first one that we would like to give this to would be Mr. Leroy Gonzalez. And Leroy, Chief, would you like to bring your wife up here so you can receive the, and any of your family members if you'd like? Son, granddaughter, and daughter. Great. Welcome. At this time, Chief, you are our newly appointed chief. We'd like to present you this. The Town of Taos appointed department head. The mayor and town council would like to recognize Leroy Gonzalez, who has been appointed by the town manager as fire chief, presented at this regular council meeting of the governing body of the Town of Taos on this 11th day, June 2013. Congratulations, and we know you will serve the town very well as chief of the fire department. Thank you. Leroy has served as assistant chief, or
I was chief of the volunteer fire department for 12 years. I've been a member of the volunteer fire department for 27 years.
So we-
Member in town.
And she has to share
so we
that.
know our citizens in Taos and Taos County are going to be served very well by his leadership. Congratulations.
Bottom Bar, which means almond orchards in Dallas, was first opened in 2007 and is a
And thank you to the families of the chief and all the firefighters for allowing them to be woken up at all hours of the night to serve our community. So thank you to the family members. This time I'd like to call up our new Library Services Director, Shirley Fernandez. Shirley, would you like to invite family members up with you? Okay. Thank you for being here. Would you like to come up here? Would you like to take a picture? Welcome to our meeting. Shirley is no stranger to our library department, as she has been serving as the assistant director or supervisor at the library, and now she, through a competitive process, she was selected to be our library services director, following the footsteps of George Jaramillo. So the Town of Taos appointed department heads, the mayor and town council would like to recognize Shirley Fernandez, who has been duly appointed by the town manager as library services director, presented at this regular council meeting of the governing body, Town of Taos, on this 11th day of June 2013. Congratulations. Oscar?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I do want to point out that this is somewhat of a new tradition of recognizing newly appointed department heads that was not in place back in the fall, where we had two newly appointed, actually three if we include also French as well. Steve Kennebeck was appointed, came on board in October. Chief Koch came on board in September. And of course, Francisco Espinosa became the Waterworks Director as well as the Public Works Director. I guess that would have been back in October. And so anyway, they didn't get a plaque because that was a long time ago. I just want to make sure that they know that we didn't forget that.
Okay. Great. Also, we'd just like to thank all of the directors that. Well, actually, we're going to have a presentation later on in the meeting, so we'll wait till then to give the formal congratulations and kudos to all of the directors of the Town of Taos, the Police Department, Fire Department, all those that were involved in making the Mumford & Sons a successful event. But we'll have that later on the agenda. And how far is that on the agenda, Oscar?
At your pleasure, Mr. Mayor. It is only a report. It's not an action item of any kind, so we could put that to the end, bring it to the front as you wish.
I would ask the council if they would bring that up after the citizens forum. That's okay? Great. Okay. We'll go on then to the citizens forum. At this time, we do have several people signed up, but I'm not going to go through the list because some of them are checked, some of them are not. I will just go by the show of hands and call you up accordingly. Is there anyone that would like to speak under the citizens forum at this time? Ma'am? Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. First, let me apologize for my attire. I've started my downtown planting blitz, so the dirt is for a good cause. But I just wanted to say I was part of the Mumford Day extravaganza on many different levels, as a merchant, as a chamber board member, and as a Taosania. And I want to say I think the town did a superb job of pulling this off. Somehow, in about 3 weeks, we managed to host all these folks. We learned an awful lot, and I believe the things we learned in the future will make similar, maybe not quite so large, but similar events much more successful. I think we proved and put Taos on the map that we can be an equal player in an event like this in the future instead of just the site of a huge music concert. So again, I want to thank everybody. I mean, everyone I dealt with in the town, from Steve to Oscar to Darren, they were amazing. The police department, all the workers down there. So I think we really all should be very proud of being Taos residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Next, anyone else like to speak under Citizen Forum? Mr. Northrop, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Well, I anticipated 2 minutes, so I kept my writings to that. 2 weeks ago, a front page news story in the Taos News reported that a man may have died as a result of the town neglecting its responsibilities to maintain the 9/11 repeater towers in Taos County. Emergency calls and emergency backup calls could not go through. The town has been aware of these serious maintenance and public safety problems for years. Yet our town fathers, with the hollow and untruthful claims of public safety, push ahead with the wasteful and politically motivated move to the regional command center, neglecting the much more important towers. To my understanding, the poorly drafted, unconstitutional, and unfinished sign code that was adopted by this impetuous body on May 28th will go into effect this Thursday, 2 days from now. In your idiotic haste to approve this incomplete document, you failed to heed my warnings, along with those of your staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission, that the right-of-way references are, for the most part, not supported by clear definitions or maps, notwithstanding the basically irrelevant maps that were posted on the town website today. Based on these shortcomings, I see no need to alter my sign postings and picketing behavior. Town Attorney Brian James authored the flawed document and thinks its quality and value is as worthy as the Magna Carta. But in many respects, it's not worth the paper it's written on. This administration continues to demonstrate a willingness to corrupt our police department's support of the vigilante activities of the thief Amos Khan. I demand that police lawlessness not continue to bother me in my picketing campaign against corruption and incompetence in Taos town government. Do not ask your cops to ticket and prosecute me for laws which do not exist or laws which are clearly unconstitutional. And once again, I would like to speak in behalf of the animals of Taos and ask that you suspend the fireworks displays indefinitely. Any questions?
Thank you. Next. Is there anyone else that would like to speak under the Citizens Forum? Ma'am, please. Welcome to our meeting.
All of you, and I'm delighted to see this young man here participating. My name is Jeannie Moretti. I'm a long-term resident of Taos. I'm a volunteer at Stray Hearts Animal Shelter, And I do, also I saw a head being shaken right away, saying that when Mr. Northrup here brought up about the fireworks being moved or suspended or whatever, I would just like for people to know what it's really like when the fireworks are going off. These dogs and cats, but I work with the dogs primarily, they're not in a normal situation anyway. It's a stressful environment at the shelter. We do all we can to make it peaceful and wonderful for them, but we have over 70 dogs. That's hard to do with a cadre of volunteers, a small group. This isn't the same for the 4th of July, what happens with the fireworks with these animals. It's not the same as Fido at home, or Kitty, who has a place to run and hide under a bed or in a closet or whatever. These dogs have no place to go. And this is very, very close. If any one of you have gone to the fireworks or even go to just participate, it is fun. The lights go off and it builds and builds and builds. You can feel the whole thing reverberating in your body. You had a choice to go there, or I have a choice to go there. These animals don't. It's terrifying to them, and we do the best we can to comfort them. We go in and we move from kennel to kennel and actually literally have to hold them because many of them are so terrified they're trembling. Now, somebody had said to me one time, well, it's no different than a thunderstorm. I can tell you it's very different than a thunderstorm. A thunderstorm doesn't build like that and terrify. Maybe it does for a short time, but it doesn't last for 45 minutes. Or maybe I've heard that they're knocking it down to half an hour. Still, that's a long time. I would invite anyone, if this does go on, I would invite any one of the people in this room to come to the shelter. We have, between where the outdoor kennels are in their buildings, there is a wonderful walkway that's a cement walkway. You can come here. I'm inviting you, bring your chairs and sit there. You'll have the best view of the fireworks without having to deal with the crowd. You can enjoy the fireworks. You can feel the fireworks. If you care to, if you want, you can peek into the pods, see what's going on. Maybe even say, oh, gosh, that dog's terrified. I'll go in and sit with that dog, too. You don't need to be afraid of the dog. It's not going to bite you. It more than likely will put its head into your armpit because it's scared. Anyway, I just want you to know something else came up about fostering. We can't get all these animals out. We don't even have the crates to move them in. And they're not a commodity to say, okay, you go here, you go here, go here. These are precious little beings, and boy, I hope you consider this. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak under the Citizens Forum at this time? Ma'am? Welcome to our meeting.
My name is Yamana Devi, and good to see you all this evening. I closed the online petition against the fireworks, and rather than waste a lot of paper to get copies to you, I am going to email you all of the files that have all the signatures. As I mentioned at the last meeting, please don't discount all of the out-of-state and out-of-country signatures because these are potential tourist dollars coming in. And Taos is supposed to be a pet-friendly town. So that's one of the things that we promote. And how can we be pet-friendly if once a year we're subjecting dogs that are taken in neglect, abusive situations from all over the county? And we're supposed to be giving these animals shelter. That's what a shelter does. We're not a pound. We're a shelter. A shelter provides certain services: food, water, medical care, life enrichment, socialization. It's more than just say we're New York City, a dog goes to the pound, it's lucky it gets fed, it doesn't get medical care, and it gets 3 to 5 days. If it's not adopted, it's put down. We don't do that here in Taos. The shelter here has become much more compassionate. I don't believe we've had any euthanasia so far this year due to space or even dangerous dogs. So we're doing something a little bit different here. And we just need to keep that in mind, that this is about compassion, not just to the human residents of the area, but also to our canine, feline residents as well. So again, tomorrow morning, you'll all receive an email that has the results. I'll attach a separate file with all the comments if you want to go through the comments as well. And I'm going to turn this over to Liz. She has all the statistics.
The statistics are not my best work. It was hard to get a tally, but roughly for town of Taos alone, we have about 249 signatures. The rest of Taos County, another 209. The rest of New Mexico, 56. The rest of the U.S., the other 49 states, 488. And I think every state was represented. I saw some from Alaska. The global countries outside of the U.S., there were 612. That was the largest category. And it was like Bosnia, Herzegovina, a lot from Poland, Egypt. It was pretty much every continent. It was quite interesting. So I'm going to give you guys the copy, the petitions that are the hard copy, and just a copy of what we handed out.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak under the citizens forum at this time? He's coming first, then I'll get to you, Ms. B. Go ahead. Are you coming?
Good evening. South of town, at the south edge of town, just south of the People's Bank, there's a channel there, an arroyo, a drainage channel, and it's being filled. About 10 days ago, there was a dump truck there unloading fill next to about half a dozen, maybe 10 other piles of fill that have now been leveled. I wonder if somebody can talk to that question about filling the arroyo. The code says that 1524-060 performance standard says that all existing water courses shall not be disturbed, and any proposed excavation, fill, or channel improvements shall be reviewed and approved by the code administrator or the town council. I wonder if somebody could explain why that area is being filled. I have a map here that shows the parcel if you'd like to see it.
Mr. Hall, you're welcome to contact our manager so that he could give you the information. I understand that they are in compliance, that they have the necessary permits from the Army Corps of Engineers and or the town. So I would encourage you to go to follow that process.
You say that they have the approval?
That is my understanding.
Okay. They being the owner?
The owners of the property.
So the town doesn't own that?
We do not own the property.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak under the citizen forum? Welcome to our meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jean Green, and I'm here to speak about the Regional Coalition of Lanel Communities. Deonza is here to talk to you about it and give you an update, I think. Unless you make the distinction, I mean, we are not owned by Lanel. We are affected by Lanel, so just to put that, I hope you see that distinction. I know they give a lot of money to various things that the town's involved in, but we are not owned. We are not a Lanel community, just to say that. The 2014 budget for Lanel, 64 to 75% is for nuclear weapons activities. Only 10% is for environmental cleanup. 0.6% is for renewable energy. We have 14,000 plutonium pits down in Amarillo. We have 1,500 nuclear warheads in Albuquerque, a mile from the airport. We have maybe 1,200 nuclear weapons on hair trigger alert. What we need is not more nuclear weapons. What we need is cleanup, and that's where you come in. And you're our representatives for that regional coalition. So that I'm hoping that you will use your influence to make the coalition understand that what we need is cleanup. There's 20,000 barrels of nuclear waste in Area G above ground. They're working on cleaning it up, but there's a lot more to go, and there's a lot of legacy waste that is the most toxic stuff known on the earth. And so there's two issues that I'd like for you to bring to the coalition. As far as cap and cover, that is not a good solution for cleaning up because there are unlined pits. We don't even know what's in there. And so that's going to leak into the aquifer eventually. And it's already leaking into our water supplies. So, and the other is the WIP proposal, where they're planning to bring high-level nuclear waste down to WIP just by changing the name of what it is from Hanford, from the leaking tanks at Hanford, and then it will be opened up to nuclear power plants, which have very high spent fuel nuclear waste. And what that means is we're not going to have room for the cleanup of Lanel on the schedule that they're on. So I'm just asking you, I'll wrap it up, I'm just asking you to use your influence to press the regional coalition of Lanel communities to make a statement regarding the WIP proposal and regarding the cap and cover issue. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Jean, with regards to a few of your comments, I sit on the Regional Coalition's Board of Directors, and I want to commend Deanza and her staff for the great work that they've done during their time as the ED. Their contract is up, and I'm not 100% sure that we're going to get them back, which I would love to have them back. But they have really, really pushed the federal delegation to allocate more funds under the Department of Energy's plan for cleanup. And when you say Taos is not a Lanel community, I beg to differ. And the reason I beg to differ that is because we are directly downwind from them. And if Taos doesn't have a seat at that table with regards to what happens if we don't have our voice in there, we're not going to get heard. So I do believe that anything that happens with Lanel does directly affect Taos in some way, shape, or form, whether that be through its employees or through what happens up on the Hill. So I want you to know that I've been a strong advocate for it. I've gone to D.C. twice. I'll be there again now on the 17th to continue to push our federal delegation to continue to allocate more funds. Obviously, it's a little hard because we've lost high-ranking Senate officials via retiring that sat on the Energy Committee. And where we run into problems with that is that now we have high-ranking senators out of the Hanford area. So we need to continue to make sure that New Mexico's voice is heard, that our national labs aren't left behind with regards to cleanup funding. So it's something that we are concerned about. It's something that I'm very, very concerned about, especially living in this community, having children in this community. It's something that affects us all. So I think it's important that the town of Taos still continues to foster and embrace what the regional coalition is. It's taken a very different dynamic from what it was when I first joined. And again, that's via Deanza's guidance. So just please stick with us and know that we are fighting for the right cause.
Well, the Regional Coalition is a very powerful organization, and there was an organization like that up at Rocky Flats. And I'm asking you to press for a statement on these two issues because they can actually probably make it happen. And these are the things that the communities care about. Getting it cleaned up. So, we're not getting much money for that, and So I'm asking for a statement from the Regional Coalition regarding these two issues.
And I think you may get some update from the Regional Coalition tonight with regards to that. I know we have sent several resolutions to the federal delegation, including the president, with regards to his last budget cycle, which we had asked for 280 plus million of cleanup dollars, and we got an allocation of close to 180. So, I mean, everything's on the chopping block, as you know, with regards to sequestration. And, you know, every time we go to D.C., we have our delegation telling us, well, if we could get our brothers and sisters in the House and Senate to play nicely, which we're all hoping for, and it is our voice that we hope that they hear. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the Citizens Forum? Ma'am?
Hello, Mayor and councilors. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. I want to talk about the Regional Coalition too. I've been to two different of the Regional Coalition meetings, and I do want to say that there has definitely been an improvement in the way that these meetings are run, because the first meeting I went to was here in Taos, and essentially nobody who was not a member of the coalition was allowed to speak. And the last time was the one in Espanola, and I thought it was run much better. Everybody got a chance to speak, and it was more open to the public, so it didn't seem like that closed an organization as it had been before. I was very apprehensive about the Regional Coalition because I was afraid it was a coalition that was designed to put lipstick on a pig, the pig being the big mess at Lano, and that what would be generated from this organization would be a cleanup that was similar to the cleanup of Rocky Flats, which was not a very good cleanup at all. You know, plutonium, which is deadlier than we can imagine, was buried only a few feet deep, and then land was turned over to people who had, public people who had no understanding of the dangers or the issues around nuclear waste. So I am hoping that this is not the case anymore because of the evolution of this organization, but my other apprehension, besides that it might not be a good enough cleanup that was being advocated for, is that it might be also used to lobby for more money for nuclear weapons work. And this fear was stimulated a bit by hearing that Councilor Gonzalez said on the radio, been touting the CMRR building and saying that it would bring low-income housing to Taos, which, although it's a non sequitur, is also touting for the nuclear weapons manufacturing part of what LANL is doing, which is most of what it's doing, because the CMRR building, all it does is process plutonium to make more nuclear weapons at a time when we don't need nuclear weapons. So insofar as this group will lobby for cleanup, for a thorough cleanup, a real cleanup, I support it. I do not support lobbying for more nuclear weapons when we have plenty of nuclear weapons in our arsenal and plenty of nuclear weapons in the world. And so I will hope that this is how this organization evolves. And I would second what Jean was saying and say, please let's have a mobile Chernobyl. Don't put high-level nuclear waste on the highways. If you don't understand how deadly high-level nuclear waste is, I can say if we had one spent fuel rod in this room, we would all be dead instantly. So thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else like to speak under the Citizens Forum? Seeing none, I will close the Citizens Forum and go on with the agenda as amended, and we will go on to item 9E, debriefing of Mumford & Sons concert. town staff will give a debriefing on the Mumford & Sons concert, which took place at Kit Carson Park on June 6, 2013. Oscar?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, with help from the staff, we prepared for you as best we could at this point. There's still more information coming in, but as best we could at this point, how it went for us at the Mumford event in terms of very basic numbers. I've just distributed to you a table that shows where basically we collected in terms of direct fees some $2,800, and it cost us in terms of overtime, rental fees for porta potties, printing, things like that, some $20,000 to host this event. Again, these are only direct costs. It is or direct costs and direct revenues. We have not made any estimate at this point as to what the bed tax was or the lodger's tax was. We do know that there was 100% occupancy or occupied that day. Normally, we would be looking at somewhere around 50%, maybe even a little less than that for a Thursday. So if you just make a basic calculation there, you see how we come out quite well. GRT, it's very hard to estimate GRT on a one-day basis, but we'll be very anxiously awaiting the monthly report to see and what we expect to be a big blip there. In terms of service calls, it was a rather average night, average weekday night. We would normally get a little bit more activity than this on a weekend night or a long weekend night. The fire department responded to about approximately or 5 medical calls inside Kit Carson, primarily for people who were exhausted or for one reason or another needed to be escorted out because of exhaustion or because they were cold, etc. And there were only 2 calls in town outside the park that night. All of these calls, all these 17 calls, all of these calls, none of them were serious. The only serious call actually we had that day for the fire department was one in Pilar where a hiker fell off a cliff, etc. But it had nothing at all to do with the events of Mumford. The police department responded to 27 calls. 9 of them were just calls for service where somebody was called in thinking somebody did not look well out there, and the police went and checked, etc. And there were some 18 complaints of all kinds, the normal kind, as well as some that may or may not have been precipitated by the big crowd that was in the community that day. Again, none of them were particularly serious. The police chief wanted to make sure that I did not overlook the point that the police costs, they had some, in terms of overtime, they had some $4,600 out-of-pocket cost for overtime, which had been budgeted, by the way, by the council last year, for this year anyway. And but those costs would have been at least another $5,000 higher had we not gotten support from all our partner agencies, including the Sheriff's Department, the State Police, the FBI, and other federal agencies, the tribal police, etc. Everyone cooperated here, and our overtime costs would have been much greater, and our ability to respond would have been much more limited had that partnership not been behind us. And so we thank them very much. Public Works, you may, I mentioned to some of you anyway that we set up a command center for Public Works for non-emergency calls south of town in the Public Works yard. That was being headed by a Public Works Director, Francisco Espinosa, and our Assistant Town Manager, Abigail Adame. They received some 67 non-emergency calls for all kinds of things, everything from ranging from a town water well that needed rapid maintenance because all our infrastructure was being used intensely. Calls like that all the way to just shuttle service calls. Again, none of them serious. They were all well attended to. And for those of you who are not familiar with this business, the hallmark of a good job is that after you're done with a big event like this, what do the streets look like the next day? And we're very proud to say that the next day the streets were clean, perfect, as if nothing had happened, and that's just the final sign of how well things went worse. And anyway, to give you another just more idea of the volume or the level of activity was there. The planning department issued some 49 different street vendor permits and 9 booth permits. So there was quite a bit of activity. In terms of what this activity did to us in helping our marketing effort, I mean, we all had hoped, and there's been a lot of talk about how an event like this has a way of boosting our image out there and really putting a lot of wind in our marketing sales. Anyway, just to give you a quick idea, just in the first 9 days of this month, just the first 9 days, if you just said, okay, let's not count anymore the rest of June, in the first 9 days, Taos.org received exceeded their visits in all the categories in just the first 9 days in comparison to all all months the previous 12 months. So just those 9 days, we saw an enormous boost. I took the time, like a lot of other people, to scour as well the Facebook pages. There was just a lot of comments about the Facebook pages, all of them positive. I think the only complaints were the long lines, but the way the town was presented. If anybody said anything at all about the town, it was all very positive. I'm talking here not just the town or as an organization, but the community, that it was a great place, it was a great experience. I did not see on Facebook any negative comments there. And that goes, and there were many likes. There were some 167 likes on Facebook on the Mumford website about Taos, and so that just has a very big impact on our presence on the internet. And so, if I was mentioning to Councilwoman Peralta earlier that if you subtract the $20,000, the $3,000 from the $20,000, and say that this thing cost us about $17,000, and I had the option to spend $17,000 for this kind of a bump, and I knew exactly where to put that, I would not hesitate to spend it that way, because this was the bump we got from this was worth far more than $17,000. So it was a good investment. It was carried off well, and I personally just want to tell the staff that basically all I did was sort of ask them to plan, and we planned, we coordinated our efforts, we drilled a little bit, and certainly they, you'll ask all the department heads, the police chief, the fire chief, et cetera, just how much I harassed them for like little things that that I thought about. They had already thought about all that stuff. They already worked out all those things, and then once it was organized, the machine went out and performed, and they performed excellently, little things and big things, and I just want to say I'm just very proud to be part of that team. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I think that concludes our report. As I mentioned to you, more information is coming in. Glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Oscar, as mayor, I just want to personally thank you for leading this effort and making sure that the town shined. It clearly did. Despite a few people in the community, one who's in the room, claiming that it was going to be a disaster, it turned out to be a phenomenal success. I can't tell you how proud I am to be the mayor of Taos and hosting such a huge event, and just be around the merchants, the people, and when you shook hands with people coming from New York and all over, saying, and them saying that we have such a friendly community from both the merchants and the residents abroad, and that they were so impressed with the town staff, engaged, helping them, assisting them with anything and everything that they needed. It just made me proud to be a part of that and be mayor of this beautiful community. The event coordinator, I know that you went through a lot that day. I just want to recognize Dan Sherman, Dan and Don, for doing an excellent job. Let's give him a big round of applause, because I know if it wasn't for him and his connections, Mumford & Sons wouldn't have probably not considered Taos. I think you had that little in that gave them that nudge to consider Taos. When we presented them with a proclamation and a key to the city, I can't believe how down to earth these folks are. They were ecstatic and very proud that we were honoring them. They keep in mind that they chose to come to Taos. They sell out months in advance to every concert that they have. They were scheduled in Las Cruces, and they chose to cancel Las Cruces that holds 23,000, the venue holds 23,000, to come to little old Taos because of the beauty and scenery that Taos has to offer. So kudos to all that were involved, all of the staff. I know if I start naming individual ones, I'll forget someone, but every single department pulled their share and went over and beyond and did a phenomenal job. I just want to also keep the bass player in our prayers, who is going through brain surgery as we speak. Had a blood clot, and they had to cancel a couple of their shows. So he's expected to recover, but just want to send our prayers to him as well. Council members.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to echo the same sentiments. And one thing that I found unique in meeting them was that they said, and being the ever question asker that I am, asked them why, what was one of their big motivations for choosing Taos, and one was exactly that, the pristine beauty and what they saw here. And for them, they said, as a touring musical group that has the ability to go all across the world, they didn't want to see just another city. They want to take this opportunity, as they recognize that it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see some of these out-of-the-way places. Collectively, they said they went 1,600 miles from their closest tour. They try to keep within a mile radius out of efficiency, and Taos collectively was 1,600 miles out of the way for them to come here. So I thank them for that also, and just considering Taos. I want to thank Chief Koch also, as the PD and law enforcement, fire department was very, very vigilant in just walking around. You guys did an awesome, awesome job, and reflected the town extremely, extremely well. As far as the event itself, it went extremely, extremely smooth. Both Councilmember Abeta and myself were in the crowd of what I guess we can call ourselves mummies now. But we had a really good time. So thanks, and we really, really appreciate our staff and all that they did.
Okay. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor Cordova. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, Mumford & Sons concert was a phenomenal event. It validated the idea that Taos as a community can host such an event. So look forward to more events. For those folks that prefer not to be part of it, hang loose. It's okay. You'll be over it. A special thanks to Dawn Richardson. She's the tip of the spear, along with Dan, who made this happen. I was just on the phone this afternoon with Don Richardson, who's up in Denver taking care of some personal business, but phenomenal leadership on Don Richardson's part, and Dan, all our town employees, from police to fire to public works, you were all in there, you were involved, you were helping out. It was just a wonderful day. If you talk to tourists, whether they were from Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado, New York, they loved Taos. So for those of us that live here, don't take Taos for granted. Taos is a beautiful place. Don't ever forget how beautiful it is. And if you see some challenges that we have, step to the plate and be part of the solution and not part of the problem. This is a beautiful place. I, as an Air Force colonel, lived in 10 different states, and I lived in Turkey. And when I retired 10 years ago, I was honored to come home. You got to have that passion for Taos. This is the most wonderful place in the world, and that's why Mumford & Sons came here. That's why they went 1,600 miles out of their route to be here. And it was truly the most tremendous event Taos has ever had, and look forward to some more. So a special thanks to all town employees for their hard efforts.
Councilmember Peralta.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to thank everybody in the community for their support for this event. From the very first that the announcement was made that Mumford & Sons were coming here, and some people said, Mumford who? They all, I didn't see any negative anywhere in the community. Everybody was in favor of doing whatever was necessary to make an event like this a stellar event and something that you could take home. And I appreciate that, and I thank everybody for that. Along with that, I need to commend the staff and both in the town, the county, for stepping up to the plate and saying that whatever the community needed, where they were willing to support it, and willing to support it with a smile on their face and not begrudgingly. They just stepped up to the plate and said, we're here to do whatever is necessary, and your staff did that in a way that is unbelievable. And the community did the same thing. So I thank you for the welcome that you gave to everyone who came to visit us. And I think that it's going to, as Councilmember Abeyta said, and Gonzalez and the mayor, it's going to come back to us tenfold. And I think this is something that we have to look at as a means for spreading out ourselves a little bit and welcoming people to visit and see what we are about and what this community can provide to people who want to visit us, and show how we are willing to step up and protect our community and our environment. And I thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Dan, when's the next concert? And also, maybe soon would be a good time to change our theme of Kit Carson Park to maybe Kit Carson Solar Park, since they've left such a mark on that. So, sir, would you like to speak on this? Yes. Sir. Welcome. Just state your name for the record.
My name is John Ablin, and I'm the owner of the Dreamcatcher Bed and Breakfast, and I'm also the president of the Taos County Lodgers Association. So, as you've all said already, kudos to all the people that were involved in making the success that the Mumford and Sons concert delivered. We've already started the process of doing a debriefing so that from a private sector we can take a look at what we did right, what other things that we could do to improve. And I have a couple of recommendations. I think the focus on what we did was the authenticity, as you guys described. The pristine nature of Taos is what drove the Mumford and Sons people to want to be here, and we need to keep that up and keep that as our forefront and focus when it comes to music, art, or cultural events. And that we need to be proactive. In some ways, we weren't sure what we were supposed to do. I think now that we've got this one major event under our belt, and we've had a lot of these different meetings and groups to coalesce as to what they can and cannot do, I think we need to look at it in terms of how can we be more proactive. And I'm suggesting that we formalize a process between the private sector and the town so that we can have then that type of committee so that we can actually start working towards what do we want to do in the future. Clearly working with organizations like the Solar Festival people, Don and Dan, really make an awful lot of sense, but we need to make sure that we cover our bases in terms of what we really want to have to come here so that we are more proactive. An example is the South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, where they have a committee from the town that actually works with the private sector to put together the festivals and the activities that they have there. So I would strongly recommend that we consider having something that exists that we can start drawing on and using for 2014 and on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. And I also agree that we need to evaluate all the processes that took place and how we structured the road closures and what time and where do we direct traffic or the lines, because I understand the lines were all the way to Monte Sagrado. And if there's a way that we could look at how do we direct those lines to roll around the plaza. That's going to be hard because the park is on the other side, and we wanted to try to avoid closing the street if it wasn't warranted at that time. So I think just evaluating all those processes, I really appreciate that. I think that'll work for the next one, because there will be a next one, right? Great.
Mr. Mayor? And one additional comment on that. The line was quite long past Monte Sagrado, but let's remember, folks, that night there was a major thunderstorm that moved in, and the promoter organizer of the event was on a weather delay for over 1 hour, and that's what created the long line. Otherwise, it was a very well-organized event to get people in a timely manner.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next, we'll go on with the agenda. Thank you, folks, for coming. Thank you for being here. And I'll go to the consent agenda. There is 3 items on the consent agenda. Item A, consent agenda, contract with Northern Mountain Constructors in the amount of $491,560.64, exclusive of the applicable taxes for construction of Old Talpa Canyon Road. Item B, contracts for consideration and possible approval for awards of contracts for road and construction materials to be provided by multiple contractors and suppliers. Bidders are as follows: R.L. Leader, S&S Concrete, Northern Mountain Constructors, and A&S Construction. Item C, consideration and approval of Resolution 13A, Open Meetings Resolution, due to changes in the Open Meetings Act by the 2013 New Mexico State Legislature. Agendas may be amended 72 hours prior to a meeting instead of 24 hours prior to a meeting, as stated in the current resolution. Council members.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item A, presentation by Regional Coalition of Llano Communities. Welcome to our meeting. Regional Coalition of Llano Communities will provide a PowerPoint presentation regarding various topics such as major milestones, economic development, and federal and state legislative outreach and membership. Welcome. If you can state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Dianza Valencia Sapien. I am here with my colleague Yassine Armstrong, as well as our program administrator, Caitlin Terry.
Okay. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And prior to starting our formal presentation as an update on the Regional Coalition of Llano Communities, I just wanted to say that I was here last week as part of the Mumford concert, and just wanted to give kudos to the city and let you know, I am a New Mexican, but I don't live in Taos. I drove, from Albuquerque here. I had not only a wonderful time, which I think is the marker of a good concert, but I never felt, I felt safe the entire time. And Taos hosted the hottest ticket in New Mexico last week. So I was the envy of my friends by virtue of being able to come. And kudos to the city on an excellent run event, and I'm anxious for the next one. And I happened, the city was sold out, but I did find a place through Vacation Rental by Owner. So we were selling those out as well. And I had friends actually had to stay in Powake that couldn't get rooms. I mean, it was a great event, and I would love to come back for another wonderful event, and it was very well done, and had fun and felt safe. So thank you for everything. Thank you.
That's what happens when you have a mayor as a musician. Let's do these concerts. No, I'm just kidding.
Kudos to you, Mayor, and all the leadership that provided that great
council, event. Kudos to the council, because this was something that when they said 8,000 people and we first heard of it, like, whoa, what is this going to do? Can we handle this? But the council embraced it with open arms, so it was great.
Well, it was very well done, so thank you. So just a real quick update. Again, my name is Dianza Sapien, and I am a partner of the MVM Group, and we are a contractor that provides executive director services to the Regional Coalition. And the presentation that you're about to see is part of our annual contract requirements to go to each member government and provide an update as to what's been happening over the course of the last year. So it shouldn't take us too long, but just to keep you moving, you have a hard copy presentation, and members of the public can follow along on the PowerPoint. Just a real quick reminder of what the Regional Coalition is. We're comprised of 8 cities, counties, and pueblos surrounding Los Alamos National Laboratory. And the goal of the Regional Coalition is to work in a regional partnership to create a succinct single voice to ensure that national decisions at Department of Energy, decisions at Los Alamos National Laboratory, incorporate local needs and concerns, and we're the voice of the local governments in dealing with the National Laboratory and DOE. The coalition was founded in 2011. It is formed, unlike the Regional Transit District, we're formed through a joint powers agreement that each of the member governments, as you know, had to enter into, and all participating governments provide funding for the coalition's operating budget. As Jean Green mentioned earlier, she talked about the concerns and the priorities of the Regional Coalition. The priorities of the coalition, the number one priority has been and will continue to be focused around environmental remediation and garnering funds for environmental cleanup. We are particularly involved in monitoring the levels of federal and state funding provided for the cleanup, and as Councilor Gonzalez mentioned, advocating for increased funding for cleanup. That is the number one priority of the goal of the coalition, and that we've actually had some success around, which I'll brief you on in a little while. The second priority of the Regional Coalition is regards to regional economic development and Llano site employment. working to train local residents for jobs available at Los Alamos National Laboratory, and creating economic opportunities around Los Alamos National Laboratory. So, for example, creating pathways to obtaining contracts with the laboratories. The focus of our upcoming July Regional Coalition meeting will be specifically around procurement and how small businesses in the area can potentially tap into the LANL contracting pipeline. And then last priority is around ensuring consistent federal funding for the laboratory, working in partnership with others to emphasize the importance of a long-term LANL budget stabilization, given its extreme economic impact on our communities. The next slide just shows a real snapshot of some of Los Alamos National Laboratory's investment within the County of Taos. This is just really a snapshot that shows how many folks we've got in the County of Taos. It's home to approximately 138 LANL employees. And as of February 2013, it was about a $9.3 million annual base salaries being paid to LANL employees in Taos County. There's also some Taos County 1,300 Taos County students and teachers participated in the science education program. 83 Taos County businesses assisted through Los Alamos Connect. 46 Taos businesses received assistance for one or more of LANL's Northern New Mexico Economic Development programs. The annual employee campaign giving to Taos County was approximately $23,000, and there was also a number of academic awards that were given to students in the region. And that just kind of gives a sense of sort of how LANL is directly impacting Taos on a LANL level, but not speaking to the concern that Councilor Gonzalez mentioned earlier, which is really around the environmental impact and advocating for cleanup. The board members of the Regional Coalition, in July of last year, Santa Fe Mayor David Koss was elected the chairman of the Regional Coalition. Our vice chair is Mayor Alice Lucero from the city of Espanola. Our secretary treasurer is Commissioner Danny Mayfield from the County of Santa Fe, Los Alamos County is represented by County Councilor Fran Birding. We have one Pueblo member of our coalition, which is the Pueblo of Oquewingue, and former Governor Ron Lobato sits on our board. The County of Rio Arriba is represented by Commissioner Alfredo Montoya, and the City of Taos is represented by Councilor Andrew Gonzalez, and the County of Taos is represented by Commissioner Tom Blankenhorn. I just wanted to give a quick snapshot on regional coalition funding. In FY13 this last year, we received $100,000 from the U.S. Department of Energy, and the DOE in FY14 in their budget has also provided a line item for continued funding for the regional coalition to promote this kind of regional cohesiveness in dealing with the DOE. So we are included in the DOE FY14 budget. So just wanted to make note of that in terms of our update. And now for the fun part, which is talking about the major milestones of the last year. So, number one, we put the hiring of the MBM group. We were brought on and officially started in our capacity in August of last year. We were charged with designing a new logo and branding for the Regional Coalition. We've professionalized the Regional Coalition's meetings and materials and set up the Regional Coalition's infrastructure, including creating bylaws, the election of officers, and the adoption of an operating budget. We also created a community listserv with a website to ensure compliance with the Open Meetings Act. We've been ensuring that the legal and financial obligations of the coalition have been met, and facilitated the joining of the Pueblo of Oquewingue as a board member of the Regional Coalition. One of the things that some of the residents here in Taos County has spoke to earlier, and we've been working towards, is creating more openness and transparency within the Regional Coalition so that the communities that our board represents, the local communities, feel that they can have a greater stake in the work of the coalition and know what's happening and be able to influence decision making. The first piece to that was developing a user-friendly regional coalition website. Our regional coalition website includes all the meeting information. This is just a snapshot of what it looks like on the web page. But we provide all board meeting information on the website, including all the past meeting minutes, as well as our governing documents. We post meeting notices. And as I mentioned earlier, we also created a community listserv, so anybody that is interested in following what the Regional Coalition is doing can be added to that listserv and can be be apprised of when meetings are happening, when the board will be convening, and any related documents. All materials distributed at the meetings are also provided on this website. So some additional major milestones that happened within the last year is The Regional Coalition of Landfill Communities has come into its own in terms of being an advocacy organization, and I'm going to speak about the impacts of that in a moment. We've been providing strategic direction and policy expertise. We've adopted very clear federal legislative priorities, which I mentioned earlier include cleanup. As Councilor Gonzalez mentioned earlier, we've been advocating for a budget with the U.S. Department of Energy on the environmental management side, which is the cleanup portion of the DOE budget related to Los Alamos National Laboratory, for approximately $255 million. That's what that number comes from hearing from the state in order to be in compliance with the various consent orders and framework agreement that exists with the state of New Mexico and the U.S. Department of Energy to maintain their milestones in cleanup. That's the number we need to be getting from DOE on an annual basis in order to do the cleanup. As Councilor Gonzalez mentioned earlier, we've never reached that number. And actually, in light of the sequestration and other budget cuts, we actually found out that this last year we were only at $170 million towards that cleanup budget. So there's a tremendous gap there. And just to take a step back so that the Taos City Council has a sense of what the environmental management budget looks like, around the country to clean up waste associated with the Department of Energy's facilities, their budget is approximately $5 billion. We're only asking for a small slice of $250 million of that $5 billion to do cleanup. And that's really where the regional coalition has found its legs in terms of organizing on a local government level with local elected officials to help move that number up. And the good news is that this last year, when we found out that there was that big of a discrepancy, they were able to actually do a reprogramming of DOE funds in this last year. We've moved $19 million into to the Los Alamos region for cleanup within the last few months, and it all looks to go to move another $21 million to move to do cleanup in this region. And I think that's a direct result of the advocacy that the local elected leaders are showing with our delegation and working in partnership with each other. So we are having impact, which is great news. We, as I mentioned earlier, created greater transparency with a variety of stakeholders, and we've actually, and Councilor Gonzalez is pictured here, although you may not be able to see it, we toured the waste isolation pilot project in Carlsbad to get a better sense of what that facility is like, the type of waste it can hold, and create a better understanding at a local elected official of what this all means. And until you go there and see WIP, it's hard to put into words. And I think it really was beneficial for our board as well as myself as a staff member. The other major milestone that we've achieved is we've forged some strong regional partnerships. We work very closely, obviously with the laboratory and DOE and NSA, but I'm most excited about the collaboration we've been able to forge with the local business communities as well as the Mexico Building and Trades Council. The local chambers of commerce, namely in Santa Fe and Los Alamos, we're particularly concerned looking at this upcoming budget year as to what the cuts might do for the economic impact of their communities. So they began engaging with us and partnering with us to create not only a wider tent of voices echoing the need not only for cleanup dollars but for sustainable funding for the laboratory. Over the last 9 months, we've also increased the profile of the regional coalition. There have been stories in the Taos News as well as the New Mexican, the Journal, as well as the Los Alamos papers, so that folks that are interested in what we're doing and what the local government, local elected leadership is interested in around the coalition, that we've provided some headlines and are doing consistent press outreach to spread the word about what we are trying to accomplish. As I mentioned earlier, on the federal legislative outreach, we've hosted meetings with the New Mexico congressional delegation. We advocated with the U.S. Department of Energy for the cleanup funding for LANL. I mentioned this earlier, the reprogramming for the FY13 current year. And then in FY14, we also have been pushing for that $250 million number. Unfortunately, and to the disappointment of our board, and this is why we're going to Washington next week, when the administration's budget came out for DOE, for FY14, the number they came out at was $230 million, which was $20 million short of where we wanted it to be. So we fortunately have strong support with the New Mexico congressional delegation, the Senate delegation, as well as the House, to get that number moved higher over the course of the budget process. The only drawback is we don't know if if Washington's going to be able to come up with a budget and pass a budget this year. We've been on continuing resolution after continuing resolution. But we have created an environment for our delegation to push for for much higher level funding in Washington. And that really, I think, is due to not only the work of the coalition, but its key partners in creating and hosting these meetings and continuing to be the squeaky wheel, saying we are not happy and satisfied with that DOE cleanup dollar amount, and we want to see more money coming into our region. We've also shown support for the Manhattan Project National Historic Park by sitting in on congressional testimony, and we are an active member of the Energy Communities Alliance, which is a national organization that is made up of communities like the city of Taos that are near to a DOE facility and advocate directly with the Department of Energy. And I am almost done, and our last slide is related to our state legislative outreach. So one of the other things that we found in the course of doing business on the local elected leadership is that the state is a key partner in trying to advocate for cleanup. And so we actually helped support 2 successful memorials in this past legislative session that allowed us to have the opportunity to discuss these issues of northern New Mexico and Los Alamos and environmental cleanup with state legislative leaders who are wanting to engage in what's happening around Los Alamos National Laboratory. The first successful memorial that we supported and worked on was House Joint Memorial 5 related to Los Alamos Area G cleanup, requesting that U.S. Department of Energy fully fund the completion of cleanup and remediation of Lannel's Area G, which I think Ms. Green had alluded to earlier, and request that DOE provide a status report to the Radioactive and Hazardous Materials Subcommittee during our current year's legislative interim. So that part passed, and we should be getting an update on that soon. So the state as an entity, not only the local elected officials, the business community, the building and trades community, the Regional Development Corporation that does economic development, and now the state legislative leaders are all pounding the door at DOE saying we need to see the cleanup money increased. And the other House memorial we supported was in light of what was happening with sequestration, urging the delegation to support continued and increased federal funding for our national laboratories and DOE facilities statewide, recognizing that they're critical partners in the economic welfare of New Mexico. And with that, Mayor, members of the council will stand for questions.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions, comments? I just want to thank you for all that you do. Seems like you have a really tight grasp on everything that you're doing there. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to commend Councilor Gonzalez for being a wonderful participant in our board and who has been a squeaky wheel on our board in terms of making sure that the city of Taos receives its fair share of what's coming off the hill, whether it be on economic development opportunities, but also pushing hard for cleanup dollars and the impact it could have on this beautiful community of Taos. So it's an honor to be here, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Youth Council Member Landgraf?
I would just like to say thank you for all of the support that you give to students and anything like that. I know that there's a lot of scholarships and that there was an internship offered this year through Lannel. And thank you for all of that, and thank you for supporting the youth in Taos.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor.
Any other comments? Did you have a comment? Oscar? Who else have one? Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will go on with the agenda. Presentation by Armstrong Consultants. Armstrong Consultants will present an update on the tasks that have been accomplished on the Taos Regional Airport runway and design phases. Welcome, gentlemen, to our meeting.
Mayor, Councilman, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Landgraf, thank you for having us. My name is Michael Garcia. Good to be back in Taos. Just wanted to give you a quick update where we're at with the design of your new runway and how it's going. It's giving you what your new runway is going to look like. That is basically what the FAA and state aviation have approved, and that's what we're moving on with. So we're very excited about it. The FAA is excited about it. We're gaining momentum with all the design, and we're moving forward. Your 30%, our task order D, which is approved by the council and the town of Taos, was for 30%. We have reached that goal. So I wanted to bring you up to speed and let you know that we are there. The elements that were in that task order were to relocate and shorten your existing runway to make room, as you can see, for your parallel taxiway that will occur. Element 2 was the actual construction of the new runway 1230. So that's what was in your EIS, and that's what is approved by the FAA. So we're moving ahead. The work performed on that task order was to get the complete survey, topographical survey of the layout where the new design would be placed of the runway. That's completed. The geotechnical field work, all the dirt work, all the lab on the dirt has been completed. We have now got your pavement section. We're ready to roll. We got everything going. We are working with the State Aviation Division and FAA really close. We've been in contact with them almost every week, to be quite honest with you. We work. They're asking us for a lot of input on some things. We're asking them for some help on some things. So we're working very closely with the FAA on things. Real quick, well, we wanted to go ahead and let you know about a couple other things since the injunction's been lifted. One of the task order E's that you approved recently was to get your SRE building, snow removal equipment building, completed as well. That is ready to be bid. That will protect the items that the FAA has purchased for the town of Taos, assisted you in purchasing, along with the State Aviation Division. That usually when they get equipment, acquire equipment like this, they require you to put it in the building, maintain it. So that's going to happen this year. Task Order F, which I understand has just been approved by the town, is to complete, to go from the 30% design all the way to the completion. We're on track. Again, we've been working really, really diligently with the FAA and the State Aviation Division. We meet with them, like I said, the FAA on a weekly basis. The State Aviation, we meet with them. They ask for input as well on where we're at and what's going on, and we give it to them. So the support from those two government agencies has been tremendous, along with you keeping things moving in a positive direction. You're to be commended as well, along with the Taos Pueblo. Everything is moving ahead as planned. We don't foresee any delays, to be quite honest with you. So we're just tracking with this project going ahead. The milestones, just to go ahead and give you just a synopsis of where we're at, is, again, this federal fiscal year is to get your SRE, your snow removal equipment building, constructed, so to protect your equipment that is out there currently. Task Order F is to complete the design, which, again, we're right on the mark. We're moving ahead, and we should be getting that, again, working with the FAA, getting everything in line. They're just as anxious to get this thing going, and very excited, to be quite honest with you. And then we're looking ahead even to fiscal year 14. That'd be really in about a year we should be moving some dirt, to be quite honest with you. That's the FAA's goal. That's the State Aviation goal. And that should be your goal, to be quite honest with you. So you got a lot of support from a lot of people. And we're heading in the right direction. I just want to let you know that. And if there's any other questions or anything you need from us, we're always here. Again, what we gave you is what that runway is going to look like. Currently, we're going through the grading and drainage, just so you know. There are stringent design requirements when you look at runways and taxiways for airports, as you can imagine. We are working on getting all of those laid out. The actual layout of the runway that you see there that's a done deal now. So it's within the EIS regulations. It took us a while to get everything kind of laid out in the 3D, the elevations worked out. That intersection that you see there with runway 4 and that parallel taxiway, that's kind of was the hinge point for everything. But it looks like we finally got it nailed down with the FAA, and we're moving ahead. So we just wanted to bring you up to speed and let you know that.
Okay. Any questions, Councilmember Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you very much for the update, and it looks like we're ready to look at bidding sometime in the later part of this year, correct? To get groundwork started in 14.
The goal of the FAA is probably, we're looking at January, Councilman, to go ahead and get that first bid item. It'd be in January. That gives us, time to get it on the street, because they have bidding requirements, our disadvantaged business enterprise regulations that we have to follow. So there's a little bit of lead time we have to have. We're working with the FAA on the bidding and the timeline. As you can imagine, they're trying to get some pool of money for you. And every fiscal year, that's going to be a new fiscal year in 14 for them, beginning in October. But we're looking like January, to be quite honest with you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Peralta, of course, with that, the way we look at it from here, apart from, as you say, moving ground, is have our financing in order. And so we're looking still that fall deadline or that fall period for us to get our financing in order is what we're looking at in terms of that lead time.
Yes,
We're hoping, we light candles every day that the FAA is going to allow this project to be broken up into different phases. At that point, we're not sure yet. Of course, if it turns into one great big project, it'll be at that time in this fall. We'll have to be coming up to $1.2 million. If there's a chance that maybe it could be broken up into several phases, then that might help our financing. But we certainly have to be ready by then for that time.
And to be quite honest with you, absolutely, that was a discussion with the FAA. They are looking at having this as a phased project, getting the dirt work completed next summer in 1 year, and then come back and then cap everything with the asphalt and everything that, the electrical, the lights and paint and everything else. So they are realistically looking at it being a phased project.
And when along those same lines, when will the project be complete?
The ribbon cutting is what the FAA would like to see is at the end of fiscal year 15 for them. So we're looking at that'd be October, Mayor, 15.
So it's a 2-year project.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's where they're gearing. That's what they are kind of telling us. I mean, we're just kind of going by what they're able to do on their budgets. Again, the town of Taos, you have moved up with the big boys, the LaGuardias, and everybody because of your special circumstances. You have moved up with them. You are competing with those airports for discretionary money. So you're playing with the big boys, so to speak.
Okay.
So,
the good thing is that we're a priority. The bad thing is that we're a priority. In that they find the money quick and they say, "Okay, where's yours?" right away. And so,
absolutely.
Just one other thing, Mayor. Just as a reminder to us, what is the load capacity of that new runway?
60,000 pounds per
Which
the EIS.
is 50-passenger commuter airline, correct? Roughly.
Roughly, yes, sir. You could get one in there. The pavement will be able to hold it. The lengthening of your runway would potentially be able to handle that. Again, it all has to do with temperatures, as we all know today. But realistically, yes, you could.
So that's the max. So you couldn't bring in a 200-seat aircraft into that runway?
No, sir. No, sir. You would wreck the runway and pretty much destroy the runway.
Right. So when we look at this, we're really looking at something that is the public safety of air traffic into this community in that runway and the length and its ability to handle something in case of an emergency.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. That will be a tremendous asset to the community as far as safety is concerned. It will handle your crosswinds that you do have. It will also, again, with the length, the width, and the strengthening of that runway, absolutely that will be a safety item that would be solved.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Thank you for that update.
Absolutely.
It clarifies
Thank
a
you
lot
for
of
having us.
concerns we have. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the great work you're doing. Okay, next we'll go on with the agenda. We'll go on to item C, contract consideration and approval of contract TT 1413 with Engineers Incorporated for general engineering service for public works project, which would be under the threshold of $60,000 per project. Each project will be a standalone project. A task order would be issued for each project and will be supported out of each respective budget. Oscar.
Yes, sir,
I'd like
Mr.
to
Mayor.
Welcome Neva and everyone from Engineers Inc. Welcome to our meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, with this contract, you're seeing the staff trying to change the way we do business for getting out our capital improvements projects. Up until now, the model has generally been that we identify a project, then we go out for bid for the engineering of it, then we construct and then move forward. And so, as you know, we're changing how we're financing these projects. We're putting a lot more resources into our capital projects, and we're also finding that we have a big backlog of projects, and so we're trying to change the way we put them out. And so, with this, what we're trying to do is always have a project in design, ongoing. And so, I asked the staff to then break away from the old mold and do an RFP, get an engineer on board so that we could then start getting projects going so that, when the financing came in, the project was already done. We didn't have to take that step. We advertised this project for this contract back in April. We received 2 bidders, engineers, and, another firm. I won't mention the other firm. All that information is all in your backup. Our public works director headed the evaluation team. We used the same standard 7 criteria that we use for all engineering contracts of this type. The evaluation team deemed Engineers Inc. to be the most responsive, to be the best proposal we got at the time, and so we're now recommending it to you. It's for $60,000, amount not to exceed $60,000. The types of projects that we anticipate will be asking them to design will be in streets and utilities. We could also use them, according to the contract that we've offered to them, could also use them to provide administrative support and analysis and things like that. This will not be, by the way, the only engineering contract that you'll see come to you, because we're going to be needing a lot of other work to get other projects done. So there'll be others. Our aim is to, again, have several projects in process at any given time so that we don't have to wait for the engineering to be done so we can move forward. We recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions, Councilmember Gonzalez?
Mr. Mayor, just a real quick question, Oscar. With regards to the upcoming projects that we have going on, would it behoove us to lump those projects together so we can identify it and do them all in one shot, or is it as a step-by-step?
No, because first of all, they are different projects, and so one gets designed, then the other one gets designed, and also because in the CIP program that you've approved, you set sort of what happens first, what happens second, et cetera. And so we're trying to do that. As opposed to having just one engineering firm do all the design, we're trying to just diversify so we could call on different ones at different times. And by that means also, protect the competitiveness, if you will, of the local professionals, et cetera. There's no question. I mean, we could go to a CH2M Hill, and a representative of theirs is here. It's a monster engineering firm. All ours and every engineering project in northern New Mexico could probably be just sent up to their office and have it done. And it could very well be that we would want a relationship with a firm like that as well. But we just think that we're on a better footing by having more than one firm. We can work with more than one. We can work with locals as well as multinationals like the CH2M. So for that reason, we're trying to break it up.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Not, what is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Neva, would you like to say a few words since you came all the way down? Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here today. And we'll be ready to work. So we'll be meeting with French and get things going and get started. And we won't disappoint you. We're a hardworking team and an honest team. And this is our CEO from Silver City. He came down with me today, Dave Maxwell.
Well, we're glad to be part of the team with Taos and looking forward to a long and mutually beneficial relationship. Thank you very much.
Great. I see you at all the grant hearings, so I know that you'll be batting for the Town of Taos project. So.
Engineers Incorporated has a real strong team in helping the communities find monies to do the projects. So we'll be trying to help you find monies to complete projects, and we're here to help in any way we can.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for coming down. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Next, we'll go to item D, consideration and approval of resolution 1334, budget adjustment request to various budgets to cover the one-time lump sum earned benefit. The total increase in expenditures for the general fund will be $80,698. In the special revenue funds, the increase will be $16,094, and the enterprise funds, the increase will be $14,343. Oscar.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Following up with the policy direction we got from you during the budget process, which I also recommended to you, that in lieu of a permanent percentage increase in salaries, et cetera, that all we could afford in order to keep our, while keeping our budget balance, current revenues below, equal to or just above current expenditures, I recommended to you that we provide a one-time increase to the employees. And so what this resolution does is it amends the budget. The following resolution, now the following resolution that you will consider, resolution F, then authorizes the use of this money for the purposes of providing this one-time lump sum earned benefit.
Okay. Any comments, questions? What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item F, consideration and approval of resolution 1333, authorizing a fiscal year ending 2013 earned payment to specified employees of the Town of Taos for attendance and completion of safety training. This includes an earned benefit payment in the amount of $650 inclusive of taxes to be paid to each full-time employee and $325 inclusive of taxes to be paid to each part-time employee. Oscar?
Yes, sir. With this, we get authorization by the council to make this payment to the employees. You have that resolution there. Although it's $650, depending on what the employee's tax implications, that amount could be lower with the actual cash that are actually going to take home. Staff recommends it. I recommend it.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a good thing that we can, as much as we'd love to give raises, I think this kind of shows a little bit of our appreciation to them, and I'm happy to do it. So move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item 10, matters from the mayor and council or youth council members. Is there any matters that would like to be discussed at this time? The only issue that I would bring up to the council, just to get some direction, I believe each one of you received an email from our assistant town manager regarding Los Ancianos, regarding the fact that they are in a probation status from the state of New Mexico. I believe that there is some serious issues that are going on there, and I believe that we need to take a strong stance against some of the practices that have been going on. So I would ask the council to, if we can get direction, just to send a letter from the mayor on behalf of the council, instructing them that we're serious about the status of the organization and that we are not going to be funding them unless they bring that organization up to compliance.
I think that's a good thing, Mr. Mayor, if I could, just because of the value they provide to the community and the fact that we harbor that as well, so that we can make sure that they're on par with what they should be doing.
Okay. Councilmember Beta.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm not sure I want to say that we're not going to continue the funding. I think the funding should continue for our ancianos. However, we need to hold the organization accountable for their failure to operate in a proper manner.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
And of course, the executive director works for the board, and the board is composed of multiple people from throughout the community. So what we need is accountability,
Yeah.
and not just say we're cutting your funding because
I
you're not
think-
meeting standards.
And I think the intent, so I can clarify myself, because I agree with you, is that their funding will be in jeopardy if they don't bring that organization up to compliance, because some of the funding was being used for payday loans for some of the employees that were there. So that's a huge no-no, and I think that we need to just really let them know that the funding will be in jeopardy if they do not bring it into compliance, and we'll set that deadline internally. Councilmember Peralta.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Abeyta, I don't think anybody wants to withhold funds or not fund something like this, but I think that we need to send a strong message, and one of the strong messages is if you don't clean up your act, then it's not proper for us to fund an organization that's not doing their job, and doing it the proper way. And so my feeling is that we should not say we're not going to fund them, we're just going to withhold their funds until they start straightening themselves out, and then we'll, the money's there, we budgeted for it, and I think that we want to give it to them, but we need to have them clean up their act in order for us to start funding them again, or not funding them again, but to release the funds to them in a manner that is proper and auditable. And I asking the question, it'd be interesting to see what the previous audits have shown as far as the deficiencies by the auditors, not only by the state who has looked at them from their operational standpoint, but what have the auditors looked at and saw as loopholes that need to be fixed.
Okay, so we'll send that letter out, and we'll CC each of the council members up. Copy of that letter. Okay, the next item is executive session. Is there any other concerns, comments?
No, sir. I just wanted to point out to you that the amount that we're talking about here is that $30,000 that we give them every year, and of course they occupy a town asset or a town building. And just to be clear, should we ever need to make a serious repair there, we won't hesitate to do that. I mean, I'm not taking the direction here that if there's a serious repair that needs to be made to the building, that we won't step in and do that. So, because it is our asset, we want to protect that. So I just want to make real clear about that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go on to item 11. The council will adjourn to go into executive session to discuss limited personnel matters relating to the town manager's performance evaluation pursuant to NMSA 1978-1015-1-H2.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. We will go into a brief executive session.
Yeah, are you going? Yeah.
Should we light a candle for you? Well, you were speaking of candle lighting, so gotta get on the program. This is genuine.
No.
No. I got you.